Well, good morning, everybody. I know we've got people spread out all over the place. So those that are here live, good morning. Thanks for being here today. I know it's every week, just when we think it can get a little more hectic, it tends to do so. And those that will be watching the recording, welcome as well. We want to start off this second session with just a couple little housekeeping items. Hopefully you received the 34 notifications from the Google Classroom this morning for all the things for session 2. Go over a couple little updates of things that have happened since last week. If we have some time, do a quick little share out of some things, explain the learning pathways, and then really excited to have Brooke Yoder from Pear Deck actually do a live session with us to kind of work through some of these ideas we were talking about in session 1 in terms of engagement and rethinking assessment and how do we get kids connected and building relations and just all those things that we're trying to figure out in the hybrid and online. And Pear Deck, not that it's the solution that's going to solve everything, but it could be a tool within your toolbox to help you, start to reach some of those goals. So as we get going here, just a couple things as same kind of slides we had last week. In your note inbox, you probably got a bunch of notifications from the classroom. Keep that open mind and a little bit we'll share out anything that you learned, new insights, things like that from our time together last week. And so again, if we happen to lose connection, I will bounce back. Hopefully the internet will be good, but I also have all 3 kids home today doing schoolwork. So who knows how the internet will hold up with all of those things. Couple little other things since our meeting last week with Google Meet last week, like literally the day before, we had the setting that we could go to tiled view and now we can see up to 49 participants. This is starting to roll out too. There's been like 3 rollouts actually in like the last couple days. And so I don't know if your domain has it, but it'll be coming out within the next 2 weeks. You should have this. The first one, I actually have this one. I don't have the others yet. There is now, if you have in your Google Meet, when you're running a session, down at the very bottom where your meeting details are, a little blue circle with a lock. It's also in your settings. So if you go to your settings icon in your Google Meet, the 3 dots, and go to settings, you now have this option for host controls. And if you don't have it, you'll have it probably by the end of next week. And what this is going to allow you to do, I think it's going to be a great feature for educators. It's something they've been asking for, is one, you can deactivate kids being able to share their screen. So I don't know all of your scenarios, but I know across the social media channels, one of the big things is students kind of disrupting the learning by sharing their screens and kind of overtaking the teacher's screen. This allows you to actually turn it off, and you can turn these settings on and off throughout your session. So you could start with it off, and if you needed kids to present, you could turn this right back on. And the other one is to turn on and off the chat. So again, the chat can be very powerful in terms of interaction, asking questions, engagement. It can also be sometimes a distraction if not used right as well. And we know all the reasons for that, especially with you guys with middle school, all the things that come with that. So just a new feature that you can literally turn on and off throughout your call. And so if you don't have that, just keep looking for it. Mine literally showed up this morning. I didn't have it last night, but I had it this morning. The other 2 settings that are coming, and I'm hoping that I have this for our session next week, if not for sure our last session together. One's not super exciting, but could be helpful, is going to allow you to blur your background. And so when you go to your 3 dots again in the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to start to see a bunch of menu options. I currently don't have either one of these options yet, so I'm hoping that it comes. But this will allow you to blur your background if you don't want people to see that. But the one that's really exciting, we talked about this in session 1, is the whiteboard, the Jamboard that we started to experiment with last week. It's now integrated, and you can actually create a Jamboard right there in class, and you can make it all happen. And it's going to be infused again with those 3 dots in the bottom right-hand corner. So I don't have those, but it looks like Lana says that he has it. So that's exciting. So just some things to look for. And then, when I get it, we can maybe play around with doing that stuff live, or obviously you can too, if you've got those settings. So you just every day, we got stuff coming with Google, and hopefully these things continue to roll out. Breakout rooms is coming in October. I don't know when in October, but it's coming, and I know that'll be a nice little addition as well. So Just a couple Google Meet updates there for you, just in case you hadn't had a chance to do that. So, Landon, were you going to jump on?
Sorry, and just to interrupt real quick, just to clarify, I have access now to the host controls, which I don't think I did at this point last week. I don't have all the other like background blur, whiteboard features yet.
Okay.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, so I think we're in the same boat there. Yeah, so that host control is nice. We give you some time to play around with that, and then hopefully next week we can mess around with the blur and the whiteboard options. So just a couple little updates there. This year, the same screen. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So with the blur, we've just been going under the operation that the kids don't have to turn on their screens because of being embarrassed of what's behind them and so forth. So essentially, that'll take that away, and we can have kids turn it on, and we can have them blur.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a conversation. Yeah, the students will be able to do that as well. So I think once we get it to see how much it blurs, I mean, I know there's some extensions that you can install now that allow that to happen. Some are good, some aren't so good, but it's definitely, I think, something for you guys to take a look at and consider. Is this something that can help get more kids the video on so you can see their face, because they can now, kind of hide some of that stuff behind them. Definitely a conversation to have once we get it. So yeah, I think a great point, Rachel, for you guys to, I think, have some conversation around. I don't want to tell you yes or no, because a lot of that's just district policy and what you want to expect and not expect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so we had this slide as well in session 1, and we're using a lot of the same things. The only thing I added were the 2 in red, because we have learning sessions with these as well. So still trying to stick within all of Google for the most part. We've got Flipgrid in there. If you did the walk and talk with the podcast, I mean, that's obviously built in for you to use. But today we're going to take a look at 2 tools. Not that we're going to have time for both of these, but just so you know, they're in the learning pathways. One is Pear Deck, which I'm really excited about, and excited to actually do this stuff live with you guys today, so you can get the questions and the templates and the help and stuff that directly benefits you. And we also have another session on Wakelet, which obviously you can't attend all the sessions at once, but it'll be there for you as well. And so I was able to work with Wakelet to put some things together there for you as well. So just 2 other tools. And so as we think about the tools, I don't want to be so caught up in 10,000 tools and trying to figure out all the things, because it's a lot. And you're going to hear from Michelle Eaton has an incredible session that's recorded for today, talking about, she says no more than 5. Jeff Udick presentation, the core 4, which he's been working with hundreds of thousands of educators, believes in just 4 until the end of October. So it's just not to get blown away with all the tools, but I also know we need some things to solve some issues. So in the Google Classroom, and I'll show you this here in a second, I did create a Google Sheet that's going to allow you to kind of vet the resources to find out if it's helpful to you personally. And so I'll show you where that's at in the classroom. And so I've put together a couple little tools already in there. Not that you have to use it. This comes from the Distance Learning Playbook. It was one of the reproducibles. I just remodified it into a Google Sheet there for you. But it's going to give you a way to kind of just take a look at some of these tools when you explore them to see if it is indeed a benefit to you or not. Hopefully by now you know where all these things are. And so the Google Classroom is where obviously you're in the meet, so I know you're there. The Google site is where all the learning is. The Google Groups, and so we've got all those in here as well. And so I know they weren't working last week, so hopefully the next couple of weeks will allow you to get in there and have some conversation and share and connect. Just think of it as like little discussion groups there for you to share depending on the learning pathways that you pick. So we've got that up and live and running now for you. The Jamboard we've been using, we're going to use it again, same structure, just so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel each week. So we have that. Also, that is in the classroom for you. And then as we get in here into the classroom, into that classwork, all the things have been posted. And so all the stuff for session 2 is here for you to check out and have access to all those things. The Jamboard, the different learning options, all those things are there. Down in general materials is that evaluation of distant learning tools. And so if you want that spreadsheet and you want to kind of take some notes on the different tools as you explore, that's there for you. You don't have to use it, but it's sometimes nice to have that place. I also put together this Q&A document. And so this is also in the general resources. What I've done is I've taken all the questions from the forums, the emails, the Jamboard last week, and things in between, and I've tried to put them all in one place. So we're not trying to like, okay, where was that posted? Or where do I go for that question or that solution? And I've attempted to try to put together a color coding. I don't know if it's helpful or just makes more of a headache to kind of figure out where we are with these questions. So as I have time, I'm diving into your questions to try to find solutions and resources. I know some of you are also looking in at your local level for some of these questions in terms of what you can and can't do. So this is just a place, and we'll continue to update this as we go. But for all of you, you have access to this. So if you have a solution, you have a resource, you have an answer, you can go in and edit and update. So you all have editing access to all of these questions and things. And you can continue to add to this as well. So just wanted you to know that that's there. I don't know if it's helpful or not, but hopefully having everything in one space versus trying to click through all the links, because we're getting a lot there in the classroom, will be helpful. And I think that's it for the most part in terms of resources. I did add down here in the weekly tech tip newsletter. The newsletter is going to go out this week on the Gmail filters. That was I know a lot of people liked that last week. And when I did the Gmail session, this is just very specific on the filters in terms of how I would create filters for different things. I use Google Classroom as an example. Obviously you have Canvas. So when I say Classroom, you would just replace your thinking with Canvas. But there's a newsletter and all that kind of stuff is built in. So if you want more, a specific deeper dive into Gmail filters, that's down there for you as well. So that's a lot. That's just updates of where we are. And so what I would like to do, the Jamboard is in your Google Classroom under session 2. I will also throw it here in the chat for those that have it. And what I'd like to do before we get into our learning pathways here is just give you some time to kind of share if any new learning, if you did something new and applied something, maybe further questions, give you a chance to throw this stuff here on the Jamboard. Also, if you'd like to come off of mute and just share verbally, you can do that as well. So we'll give you a couple minutes here to kind of throw some ideas on this Jamboard while they populate, and then we'll get into the flow for the rest of the learning today. Yeah, Deb, you have a good question about Google Meet, the optimum place to use Jamboard. It will be, and that's one of the things we were talking about, the updates with Google Meet, probably hopefully by next week. It'll be integrated as just an interactive whiteboard built directly into Google Meet, so that will make it more optimal. But it doesn't have to be just Google Meet. It's a good place for collaboration if you need kids to put together stuff. And there are some incredible templates created by other people. I've put some resources on the site. I'll make sure I get them shared out too, again, with the emphasis, but obviously a Google search will, if you just search Google Jamboard templates, there's some incredible graphic organizers and different things that you can use. Most people are using them, for the Google Meet, for that just live interaction, try to get kids to share some ideas that maybe aren't always comfortable with their voice or with the video. So yes, it is. Yeah, it's just like Padlet, except for there's not a cost after. I think now Padlet charges you after 3 or 5. So it's, it keeps gaining momentum. So definitely wanted to keep kind of checking out and exploring. And so while you're doing, I'm just going to set the stage here so we can make sure we optimize our time with Pear Deck today, which I'm super excited about. And so the sessions, the 4 pathways for this week, and obviously you can always go back and check out any of these whenever you need to, are these 4 here. So I just want to briefly explain these, and then I want to get into Pear Deck, because I know a lot of you are going to find Pear Deck to be so helpful. I know some of you already started to dabble in it, and you have questions for Brooke, and you're ready for her just to wow you with her insights, with what Pear Deck can do for you. But here are the other options that we've put together for this week for you. The first one here is Strengthening Online Teaching and Learning with Michelle Eaton. So she works in a school district in Indiana. She has a wonderful book called The Perfect Blend, very practical strategies, down to earth, doing this stuff on the daily grind, and just really giving some really great tips and insights on how do we make sense of the hybrid, the online, the face-to-face as we move maybe back and forth and all the things. So really, really great session. That one there has video and podcast. So if you missed out on the walk and talk session last week and you'd like to try that for this session, that is definitely there. And there's some great challenges and some wonderful resources for you to think about in terms of interaction and that type of thing. The other one is Wakelet, and Wakelet is another tool to organize resources and collections, and they have a new feature called Spaces. And so we focused, again, not on the how to use Wakelet, but with a focus on organization, presentation of materials, and collaboration. So these were a couple of things that people were asking for in the forums and the feedback. And I think it always helps to have like a specific tool that could help with those things. So we attacked in this conversation, and there's no podcast with this one because he does a video demo walking you through how Wakelet could be a benefit to some of those topics that you see listed there. So then we have Pear Deck, which is going to be live, and I hope all of you stick for this one because this is live. Your voice can be heard, your questions can be answered. You're going to learn lots of great things, and so I'm really nudging this one because it's live, and you can actually really get it personalized for you. But we're going to have Brooke, who's actually here on the call, and she's going to help go over how to use Pear Deck for engagement and teaching. Obviously, there's going to be some how-to in there as well. And so as you guys have questions, we can definitely tackle those. So trying to help not just say, click here, click here, click here, but here's how this tool could actually help you with some of the concerns that you have. And then finally, the other option is the Core 4 by Jeff Udick. And so this is one that is very powerful. If you don't get to it this week, I really encourage you to listen to this or watch this session at some point in time. He talks about his philosophy of Core 4. Like, you only have 4 tools. That's all you use for the first 2 months. You really just narrow down and get your things together. It's really good about school vision, district vision, and how to make these things work. So he's currently working with every single educator in Washington, and he has actually done what we're doing now with the pandemic 4 different times, as he's taught in various places over in Asia. And so it's just a really enlightening session there as well. They're all phenomenal. So those are the 4 sessions. So the bell always gets you every time. So no worries. No, it's good. So the Jeff session and Michelle session have podcast and video. Wakelet is video only. And then Pear Deck is going to be live in the action, in the flesh here with video as well. So those are your sessions. So we're going to hand it over here in just a second, make sure no one has any questions. But I hope you stick for Pear Deck, but if any of these other 3 are really grabbing you, obviously this is your time, this is your PD, so we're trying to make sure we're catering to your needs. You can jump off this call and go do your own learning. And just like last time, we're keeping it all the same. We're going to come back at 10:30 for a show and tell. And so if you do jump off to do some of these other sessions, or I know a lot of you have got moving parts and you're teaching and not teaching and coming and going, 10:30 we will come back together and share some some learning, and then talk about our next steps. So you have all that as well. Last thing is, in the Google Classroom, in session 2, I have created breakout rooms for each of these topics. So if you do break away and you want to connect with somebody else, feel free. The links on this one aren't working, but they are in a classroom because I didn't want strangers jumping in. You have a collaborative space where you can exchange and work through some ideas. So there is, in session 2 in the classroom, it's just called Google Meet breakout rooms. Feel free to use those. You don't have to, but just, again, trying to build some connection there and collaboration as we go.
Aaron, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, absolutely.
If this is recorded and somebody's watching it, will they still be able to join in those breakout rooms? Or is that just something for just right at this time?
Nope, those will stay open until I turn them off. So I'll leave them open as long as we need to, in case people need to connect. I know that people are coming and going at different times. So I will probably keep them open until our session next week. And then I'll shut them down and then create new ones for next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so do we have any final questions before we move on? Any questions in general? Any questions about the sessions? Any questions about things that you need that aren't on here? Any thoughts from people before we hand it over to Brooke here for our live learning?